Sushruta for NEET is now available on the Google Play Store. Try it out for free.
So good morning, students. We are today going to study about some compounds which are compounds of alkaline earth metals, which are industrially important or which are being used by us in our somewhere in our day-to-day life. So let us first look at the magnesium and their compounds. First, the thing is the extraction of magnesium. Usually, magnesium is prepared by electrolysis of fused magnesium chloride. And if you look at all the four major ores that I have earlier taught you about, only carnallite contains magnesium chloride. But this carnallite magnesium chloride can't be directly converted into anhydrous MgCl2 because MgCl2 that we use is a fused magnesium chloride. Here on fused magnesium chloride, it should not contain water molecule because once the water is there in electrolysis, something else will be happening. So water itself be oxidizing or means one part oxygen and hydrogen that will hydroxyl ions and H plus ions that will take part in this electrolytic reactions. So we don't want that thing to happen. We want magnesium to be extracted from the electrolysis processes. So we don't want any water molecule. So what we have to do is we have to remove water molecule, and water molecule removing water molecule is very difficult from the carnallite usually. Because why? Because once you heat this mineral to remove water molecules, you will see that it will react with this water of the crystallization and form magnesium oxide, and that is why it becomes difficult. It forms something else or not magnesium chloride or magnesium dichloride. So what happens usually in the dose process, the process which we use usually for the extraction of magnesium, we use magnesium chloride which is obtained from the seawater as MgCl2 6H2O. And now MgCl2 6H2O, the similar what happens, this is rendered anhydrous by heating in current of dry HCl. So dry HCl we use to make this one anhydrous. And now once the anhydrous MgCl2 is obtained, we melt it, we mix it with the sodium chloride, and mixing with the sodium chloride it decreases its melting point, and decreasing its melting point, so one can easily melt it, and the molten MgCl2 also which contains NaCl is used for the extraction of magnesium. And this thing electrolysis of happens at the 700 degrees centigrade to obtain pure magnesium. Some important compounds of magnesium are the magnesia or magnesium oxide MgO, which is also called burnt magnesia, and is used in magnesia cement. So MgO is used in magnesia cement, which is also called burnt magnesia. MgO, magnesium oxide, magnesia or burnt magnesia, which is used in magnesia cement. Or magnesia cement is what? It's a mixture of magnesium oxide and magnesium chloride, which is also known as Sorel cement. And what is Sorel cement? It is also known as magnesium oxychloride because magnesium oxygen is there, chlorine is there. Its name is also magnesium oxychloride, name of Sorel cement, and its approximate chemical formula is this. Why approximate chemical formula? Because there is no exact chemical formula for this, because we see something else, some other compounds are also getting formed in some other proportion in that mixture. So this is a mixture, that is why the approximate formula we are talking about, because in the mixtures we see the ratio, and with the ratio what compounds are there. So this is the one molecule of MgCl2, 3 of magnesium hydroxides, and 8 H2O. And what happens, magnesium chloride solution we use, and the magnesium chloride aqueous solution of magnesium chloride we add magnesium oxide, and to get Sorel cement. And how much we add, in what proportions, usually we find a Sorel cement that is made in certain proportions, which is more common in this formula. In this ratio we usually try to form this cement. All the chemicals that are there in the Sorel cement usually that we use is this. In this ratio 1:3:8. Magnesium chloride, magnesium hydroxide, and water molecules. 1:3:8 molar ratio. These are molar ratio. Then the magnesium hydroxide. Magnesium hydroxide, you can understand very easily the molecular formula MgOH twice, and it is used in the medicine, and suspension is used in medicine as antacid. That we know it's also called milk of magnesia in the medicine which is its medicinal name. So milk of magnesia is used as antacid, which is the medicine. Then the magnesium chloride, MgCl2, which exists as 6H2O as a water of crystallization, that we saw. Even if you take magnesium chloride from the seawater, you get 6 water molecule as water of crystallization. So magnesium chloride, and why it is so? Because magnesium is very small and it forms complexes with the water molecule, and those 6 water molecules are there in that form. And magnesium chloride, what we know, it's a deliquescent. Deliquescent means having tendency to melt or become liquid. This is the deliquescent nature. So it's a deliquescent solid. Magnesium chloride is a hydrated salt on heating in air undergoes partial hydrolysis. So this is the salt on heating undergoes partial hydrolysis, and what does it mean? So magnesium MgCl2 plus 6H2O, water is already there. Once you heat in the air, what happens? That one chlorine, it goes away, and the water molecules, actually it splits into OH minus and H plus. And the H plus, it becomes 5H2O molecule will go away, one H plus will go with one chlorine, and one OH will go with the MgCl, what will be the left. So one hydrogen H plus will go with the Cl minus, so it becomes HCl that you see here. 5 water molecules will be removed, which was the water of crystallization, and one water molecule which was splitted, which was hydrolyzed, and that has OH minus, so it becomes MgOH and the H plus that was obtained after the hydrolysis of one, after the breaking of the splitting of one water molecule, that H plus goes to the another chlorine that was here and to form HCl. So this is what we call partial hydrolysis. Why partial hydrolysis? Because one chlorine is still intact with the there, and that is still there with the magnesium. So this is partial hydrolysis. In the full hydrolysis, what would have happened if this chlorine would have also gone? So we might get that product as MgOH twice and this 2HCl here. But in magnesium chloride undergoes on heating, undergoes partial hydrolysis, and we obtain this product MgOHCl. Magnesium sulfate, which is also called Epsom. So there are two names: gypsum. Gypsum is calcium sulfate, and it also has water of crystallization. 2 water molecules as a water of crystallization. The calcium sulfate, which is gypsum. Magnesium sulfate, which is called Epsom salt. So Epsom salt is what is a magnesium sulfate, and 7 water molecule as a water of crystallization. So MgSO4 7H2O is the chemical formula of Epsom salt or magnesium sulfate. Usually its crystal contains this. And its magnesium sulfate is isomorphous to zinc sulfate, which also contains 7 water molecule as water of crystallization. So you see one transition in this 3D series element zinc, which property resembles with the magnesium, the group 2 element. So what we see usually, the zinc, which should ideally be the transition metal element or the and should form coordination compounds as of the other D block element, but its properties more resemble to second group elements or the alkaline earth metal. So zinc usually behaves as alkaline earth metal, its property more closer to the alkaline earth metals. So isomorphous, what is isomorphous? Means the two compounds are called isomorphous if they have same crystalline structure. They form same kind of crystals. We know in the solid structure what kind of different crystal structures one could have. So if they have similar structures, isomorphous, this term is two compounds having same crystalline form, same crystal structure are called isomorphous. Iso means same, morphous means no morphology. So this magnesium sulfate or Epsom salt is used as purgative, or it's also called laxative. And what is it? Some people have, those who are having constipation, they are administered, so doctor administer this, and then after that, what happens, this fecal passage of the fecals happens more facile, and so it is actually used as a medicine for those who are having constipation. So it's called laxative or purgative or laxative. So it's used in medicine. It's also a mordant in dye. Mordant is what? A substance used to treat leather or other materials before dyeing is called mordant. So it's also magnesium sulfate is used as a mordant in dye, and also it is used as a stimulant to increase the secretion of bile juice that is there, that it gets secreted in our alimentary canal. Some parts of, I think it's the pancreas, secretes bile. You can refer the biology book. So it is as a stimulant. It also acts. Magnesium sulfate also acts as a stimulant to increase the secretion of bile. From where it is secreted, you can see the book. Most probably, I am saying, I am not sure. It's the pancreas from where it is secreted. So compounds of calcium. So compounds of calcium, there are some very important compounds of calcium, and that we know that we use them quite often uh, in our day-to-day life. And the calcium oxide, the calcium hydroxide, calcium sulfate, calcium carbonates are some very important compounds. And let us look first at the calcium oxide. Calcium oxide, we know CaO, and which is also called lime or quick lime or burnt lime. So lime is CaO, or quick lime, it's also called CaO, calcium oxide. Its chemical formula will be CaO. So the calcium oxide, which is also called lime or quick lime, you should remember all these names, because with these names questions are asked. Quick lime or burnt lime or simple lime. On a commercial scale, it is prepared by heating limestone, which mostly contains calcium carbonate. This is a limestone is the calcium carbonate in a rotary kiln. What is a rotary kiln? It's a pyroprocessing device used to raise materials to a high temperature. So it's a low, it is heated in calcium carbonate, which is a limestone, which is heated in the rotary line at 170 to 1270 Kelvin temperature. And once it is heated to this temperature, what we see, the carbonate decomposes into calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. And this calcium oxide is what? The quick lime or the burnt lime or the lime. And the CO2 gas. And we have to, while this reaction in the chemical equilibrium, we also have seen this reaction. But what we have seen, this reaction is usually, if carbon dioxide is not removed from there, this reaction will become reversible reaction. So what do we do? This reaction becomes reversible reaction, and what we know from the Le Chatelier's principle, if we remove one of the product, we can see this reaction continuously going into the forward direction. So this CO2 is gas, and it is very easy to remove a gas from any reaction mixture. And so this calcium oxide, which is also solid, this calcium carbonate is also solid. CO2, carbon dioxide, is only the gas, and thus one can very easily remove it. So the carbon dioxide is removed as soon as it is produced to enable the reaction to proceed to completion. And this is because that this idea we get from the Le Chatelier's principle that we have studied in chemical equilibrium. So calcium oxide is white amorphous solid. So it's a solid which is white, and it's not the crystalline solid, it is an amorphous solid. And it has a melting point of 2870 Kelvin, 2870 Kelvin, 2870 Kelvin. On exposure to atmosphere, it absorbs moisture and carbon dioxide as well. So what do we know? This one, calcium oxide, if it absorbs carbon dioxide, what we see the reverse reaction in the opposite direction, reverse direction, backward direction. So this will form calcium carbonate. So calcium oxide, when it is exposed to air, it can react with the carbon dioxide present in the air and will form calcium carbonate. Calcium oxide has also very high affinity with water, and so it absorbs water from the moisture that is there in the air, the atmosphere, and it absorbs water or the moisture, and it forms CaOH twice, which is called slaked lime. That we will see CaOH twice, calcium hydroxide, which is called slaked lime, that we will also see later on. Slaked lime is quenched lime. So the addition of limited amount of water breaks the lump of lime. So what can do, even if you add limited amount of water, somewhat water to calcium oxide, that is as a lump, it is like a roda, and once you add water to these lumps of calcium oxide, why we are calling not the crystals, or they are not crystals, this is amorphous solid. So once you add water to these lumps breaks and it forms this process and react to form calcium hydroxide, CaOH twice, which is called slaked lime. And this process of the breaking of this lump and the formation of calcium hydroxide is called slaking or the quenching of lime. process is called what? This kind of reaction is called slaking or the quenching of lime. This reaction is the slaking of lime. Quick lime slaked with concentrated solution of caustic soda as well. So caustic soda or soda, people also say, to give solid soda lime. What is soda lime? Its composition is very complex. There are many components of this mixture, which is a soda lime. So what this exact composition is not in your syllabus. What you have to remember only is the quick lime means the calcium oxide, when it reacts with the sodium hydroxide, it forms soda lime. And what we know, this calcium oxide, we have seen the oxide of calcium are basic in nature. So being basic in nature, it can also react with the acidic oxides, and the acidic oxides that are more common acidic oxides are the silica, the sand. Silica, so calcium oxide reacts with the silica to form calcium silicate, CaSiO3. So it reacts with silica sand and it forms calcium silicate. And this, because we know sand is also very solid material, very hard material. Calcium oxide is also solid. It will be very difficult for them to react at the normal temperature. So usually this reaction happens at a very high temperature. So when calcium oxide means the lime, quick lime, when it is heated with the silica at high temperature, we see calcium silicate. And this kind of things that we see the formation of slag in the metallurgical reactions. So this is a kind of slag, and that we'll see when we will see metallurgy. And the calcium oxide, it all can also react with the other acidic oxide. And what is the other acidic oxide? Acidic oxide means the oxides of non-metals mostly, and the silicon is the non-metal, phosphorus is non-metal. So phosphorus pentaoxide is this CaO quick lime also reacts with phosphorus pentaoxide. P4O10, according to this name of this compound, according to IUPAC nomenclature, it will be tetraphosphorus decaoxide. Tetraphosphorus decaoxide, which is a common name is phosphorus pentaoxide. So CaO reacts with phosphorus pentoxide means P4O10 to form calcium phosphate. And phosphate, we know PO4, like valency is 3. So 3 minus charge is there on the phosphate. So this valency will go with the while writing the chemical formula. Ca3 and the calcium valency, which is +2. So 2 magnitude only will take. It will be go to the phosphate. So PO4 whole twice. This is the chemical formula of calcium phosphate. Let us look into the use of quick lime. It is used in the steel industry to remove phosphate and silicates as slag. And this reaction that we have seen, phosphates and silicates as slag, they are removed in the steel industry, means in the extraction of the iron from the iron ore. We use this reaction to remove the silica impurity, and which will be removed as a slag. And it is also used to make cement by mixing it with the silica. CaO is when mixed with the silica, that we will see how the cements are formed, what are the different components of the cements, or which is also called a Portland cement. So that we'll see silica, calcium oxide is very important. More than 50% of the cement contains calcium oxide in the molar composition. So 50%, more than 50% is, and around 25% is silica, and also alumina, and also magnesium and iron oxides are there in the cement. So calcium oxide is used in forming cement. It is also used in making glass. It is the cheapest form of alkali. Alkali means is a base. It's a cheapest form because it is very easily available. It is used in lime soda process for the conversion of sodium carbonate to sodium hydroxide, and vice versa. This process perhaps we have seen earlier. It is used for softening water, and this CaO is used for softening water. Actually, it is used for softening the temporary hardness of water. Temporary hardness, what we know, it is caused due to the bicarbonate salts of calcium and magnesium. So bicarbonate of calcium and magnesium, CaHCO3 twice and MgHCO3 twice are there in water, and the calcium bicarbonate and magnesium bicarbonates are dissolved in water, so they will be in dissolved form. Once you add calcium oxide, CaO, to water, it will form calcium hydroxide, CaOH twice, and CaOH twice, once it forms CaOH twice, the slaked lime, and that slaked lime reacts with the calcium bicarbonate, it forms calcium carbonate. Calcium carbonate solubility in water is very less. It is almost insoluble in water, and so calcium carbonate will be precipitated, and the bicarbonate impurity is removed, so water becomes soft. So this is what that, and this thing we have read in the higher, when we read about the normal chemistry of water or the permanent and mm, temporary hardness of water, or how can one remove, or how we remove this permanent and temporary hardness, that this thing we have studied there. So to use, only thing is that there we have studied calcium hydroxide is being used. But what we are saying, the calcium hydroxide, once you put into the water, it will form calcium. CaO will form calcium hydroxide or selective lime. So calcium, the quicklime, the calcium oxide is used in manufacture of sodium carbonate from the caustic soda. It is employed in purification of sugar and in the manufacture of dye stocks. Let us now look into the calcium hydroxide or slaked lime, CaOH twice, and its chemistry. So more general chemistry of calcium hydroxide and its uses we will see. So calcium hydroxide is prepared by adding water to quicklime. CaO, that thing we have already seen this reaction here. CaO water, though this water we have considered here that it is CaO absorb this water from the moisture, as the moisture means from the atmosphere. Here, but once you add water molecules to calcium oxide amorphous solid lumps of calcium hydroxide will calcium oxide will form. We will see the formation of calcium hydroxide. Calcium hydroxide, which is a slaked lime, it's also called a slaked lime. That is the common name that is given here. It's a white amorphous powder. This is also a powder. It is sparingly soluble in water. Sparingly soluble in water means some amount, to some extent, it is soluble in water, and that though that solubility is very less, solubility product will be very low. Also, its solubility product very low. So, but some amount of calcium hydroxide will be in the aqueous form. It will be in the aqueous solution in the form of Ca2 plus and OH2 OH minus ions. And that aqueous solution of calcium hydroxide, where it is the CaOH twice is there in the presence of ions, Ca plus ions and OH minus ions, and that is called lime water. So whatever the solution that is there of calcium hydroxide with the water, it's called lime water, and it's suspension of the slaked lime. So suspension, so this is a amorphous powder. Once this powder, you can actually shake it, put it in the water and shake it fully, so the suspension will be formed, which is a heterogeneous solution, and that heterogeneous mixture. I'm sorry, the homogeneous part is the solution and heterogeneous part is the suspension, and that suspension is called milk of lime. So milk of lime is the undissolved part of calcium hydroxide. When it is there with the water, mixed with the water, it's called milk of lime, or the suspension of the slaked lime with water is called milk of lime, because it is white in color and it looks like milk, so we call milk of lime. When carbon dioxide is passed through the lime water, it turns milky due to formation of calcium carbonate. This is a very important reaction that I think I have also described it earlier. So calcium hydroxide, CaOH twice is there, and when you pass CO2, you will see the formation of CaOH twice. And the lime water, what is the lime water? Means the water, the solution form of calcium hydroxide, though their concentration of Ca2 plus and 2OH minus, means the CaOH twice, will be very less in the water in the solution form. Because why? Because we know the Ksp of calcium hydroxide is very low. It's a sparingly soluble salt. So we'll see that the once in the lime water solution, that solution form, when you pass CO2, you will see the formation, and the solution means it will be the transparent. This was the transparent. Once you add CO2 to that solution, you will see the white turbidity that comes out, and that white turbidity is due to the formation of calcium carbonate. And the calcium carbonate, this turns milky, white turbidity, and this calcium carbonate plus water molecules after the reaction we'll see. And on adding excess amount of carbon dioxide, this is what we have to take care of. This is also one test. So if you add excess amount of carbon dioxide, you will see the formation of calcium bicarbonate or calcium hydrogen carbonate. This is because calcium carbonate reacts with the carbon dioxide and water molecule to form calcium bicarbonate. So calcium and water was already there in the solution. So calcium carbonate plus CO2 plus water, it forms calcium bicarbonate, and this calcium bicarbonate is also dissolved in water. So this white turbidity will go away again on adding excess amount of CO2, and this gives the taste of this the presence of the calcium ion into the solution. And the milk of lime reacts with the chlorine to form milk of lime. Milk of lime means the suspension of select lime in water. The suspension of select lime in water reacts with chlorine to form hypochlorite. Hypochlorite means the hypochlorite of calcium, because the calcium metal is used, so calcium hypochlorite, which is a constituent of bleaching powder. So when CaOH twice reacts with the chlorine, it forms CaCl2. So Cl2 formation will be happening, and this CaOCl twice. So OCl twice is nothing but OCl minus. OCl minus is the hypochlorite ion, which is used in the bleaching powder. So calcium hypochlorite, this is the component of bleaching powder. Now let us look into the usage of the select lime. Select lime is used in the preparation of mortar. Mortar in the building material. Mortar we also call masala, that we make while using these things, add this mixture to form mortar, is called masala, and this is used in adding the joining bricks one over the another, and also in the plaster of the building or the walls. So this kind of mortar is used. It is prepared by mixing 3 to 4 times its weight, means 3 to 4 times weight of calcium hydroxide. We add sand, and by gradual addition of water, sand and water we add, and it forms this mortar. It sets into hard mass by loss of water and gradual absorption of CO2 from air. So it loses water and it absorbs CO2 from water and forms calcium carbonate kind of a structure, and we know calcium carbonate, this is a crystalline structure it forms, and so it becomes rock hard after setting in. So calcium hydroxide is used, or the select lime is used in whitewash due to its disinfectant nature, in manufacturing of bleaching powder by passing chlorine gas. So CaOH twice, that reaction we have seen on passing with the chlorine gas, turns out it forms calcium hypochlorite, CaOCl twice, and that is the bleaching powder. So in manufacture of bleaching powder that we have seen, in making glass, and in the purification of sugar and coal, this calcium hydroxide is also used, or the select lime is also used. It is used in tanning industry and the softening of hard water. How softening of hard water we have seen, the CaO in the form of CaO, it should water should add solution from CaOH twice, and CaOH twice, and it reacts with the bicarbonate that we have seen. So that CaOH twice, which is when it is used added directly to the hard water, which has temporary hardness, it forms the precipitate of calcium carbonate, and the hard water, which is having temporary hardness, becomes soft. Now, this is the compound that we are going to study, calcium carbonate, CaCO3. Calcium and carbonate, that we know, the chemical formula will be CaCO3. We are not adding any water molecule here as a water of crystallization. So calcium carbonate occurs in nature in several forms. One form is a limestone, then chalk, marble. Marble contains, which is a mineral. It also contains some other salts, but the major portion is the calcium carbonate. So it can be prepared by passing carbon dioxide through select lime, or by addition of sodium carbonate to calcium chloride. So what do we know? The calcium carbonate, how do we form the calcium carbonate? One reaction that we have seen, whether the bicarbonate is there and you add, means the calcium, any bicarbonate solution of any metal, if it is there, you add calcium hydroxide or the select lime, we'll see the formation of carbonate, calcium carbonate. Or the calcium hydroxide or select lime, when it is added, when it reacts with carbon dioxide, it also forms directly calcium carbonate plus water. I think this reaction we have seen here. So when carbon dioxide, this reaction, so CaOH twice plus CO2, the same reaction that is here. So calcium hydroxide plus CO2, it reacts to form calcium carbonate, and the water molecule as a byproduct. The calcium chloride, and what we have to, and this calcium chloride plus sodium carbonate, it forms calcium carbonate. This is just a double displacement reaction, CaCO3, NaCl, so 2 NaCl, 2 Na2 and Cl2, so 2 NaCl formation will be there. So excess of carbon dioxide should be avoided here. Why excess of carbon dioxide should be avoided here? Because calcium, water molecules are also produced during the reaction, and if you add excess of carbon dioxide, the calcium carbonate will react with the excess of carbon dioxide plus water to form calcium bicarbonate. So calcium bicarbonate will be formed as the end product and not the calcium carbonate. So we have to add very calculated amounts of carbon dioxide to CaOH twice, or the select line for the formation of calcium carbonate. Means a calculated amount means how will you do? You will have to see this balanced stoichiometric reaction, and from there you can find out how the number of moles. 1 mole of calcium hydroxide reacts with 1 mole of carbon dioxide, and 1 mole of this means this 1 mole of carbon dioxide is 44 gram, and 1 mole of this will be 40 plus 17 into 2, 34, 74, around 74 gram. So this is the what the calculated amount of CO2 you have to add. And 44 gram means usually the 1 mole means if it is at the STP, it will be 22.4 liter of CO2 gas you have to add, because the gas you add into the measuring volume of gas is very easy than measuring massage of the gas. So you can add 22.4 liter at STP for the per 74 gram of this to form calcium carbonate. So calcium chloride, why? Because excess of CO2 should be avoided because it forms the calcium bicarbonate. So calcium chloride also reacts with sodium carbonate to form calcium carbonate, and NaCl is a byproduct. That this reaction we have seen just now. So calcium carbonate is a white fluffy powder, it's a foamy powder, and it's white in color. It is almost insoluble in water. So calcium carbonate is almost insoluble in water, that I have said earlier. That is why bicarbonate, from the bicarbonate we add calcium hydroxide or select lime, what we see the formation of calcium carbonate, and the first calcium carbonate gets deposited. Similarly, when the lime solution, lime water solution, water aqueous solution containing Ca2 plus ions, when it is added, CO2 is added to that, what we see the formation of calcium carbonate, white turbidity, and that white turbidity was because of the calcium formation of calcium carbonate, and so that thing. So when heated to 1200 Kelvin, it decomposes to evolve carbon dioxide. So 200 Kelvin, slightly around 200 Kelvin, when calcium carbonate is heated, it decomposes into calcium oxide plus CO2, and calcium oxide, what is this? This is the lime or quick lime or the burnt lime plus CO2, the gas that we know, and this method we use for the formation of CaO. Because forming CaO3, we get it by some other methods, and the many rocks or marbles contains calcium carbonate. So it reacts, calcium carbonate reacts with dilute acid to liberate carbon dioxide gas, because this is a basic this carbonate of alkali metals are basic in nature, and so basic in nature, so they will react with the acid, and they will react with the active, very active metals are there, so they will react with the acid, and to form the CO2 gas is evolved in that case. And how the CO2 gas is evolved, this kind of reactions we have seen. Usually what happens, the double displacement reactions happen initially. The calcium chloride, which is dissolved in water, calcium chloride and H2CO3 molecules will be formed. H2CO3 is carbonic acid, and H2CO3 carbonic acid, which is not very stable acid, so it will decompose into H2 and CO2, and the self ionization of carbonic acid, you can see the water molecules, water molecule itself, which acts as a catalyst in the dehydration of carbonic acid. So once the solution is there, so carbonic acid itself, because by the act of the water molecules, it will be dehydrogenated. So calcium carbonate plus water plus sulfuric acid, dilute sulfuric acid, what we see here again double displacement reaction, calcium sulfate formation plus H2CO3, and H2CO3 carbonic acid again decomposes into water and carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide, this is what we are saying, it liberates the reaction of calcium carbonate with dilute acid, liberates carbon dioxide, and that carbon dioxide, it has come from the carbonic acid H2CO3. So sometimes even suppose a reaction is just given at H2CO3 in some of the options, in some questions, so you should opt for that H2CO3, or if the reaction, this kind of reaction is given, so you should give this product as the right answer. You should choose that. So uses of the calcium carbonate, it is used as a building material in the form of marble, and also in the manufacture of quick lime. Calcium carbonate along with the magnesium carbonate is used in flux in the extraction of metals such as iron, and extraction of metal as iron that we have seen that it is used to remove the slags in the form of calcium silicate or the phosphate. Especially precipitated calcium carbonate is extensively used in manufacture of high quality papers. It is also used as an anti-acid, so calcium carbonate is also used as an anti-acid. It's a mild abrasive in the toothpaste. While using toothpaste, you might have seen some kind of some kinky, some the rocky material. Sometimes you might have felt that is nothing but the calcium carbonate, and this calcium carbonate actually it is used to create a friction between the brush and the teeth. So that friction in the toothpaste also used to remove the friction, but there should be some sufficient amount of friction there so that the teeth also gets clean and white. So that is used as abrasive in toothpaste, a constituent of chewing gum. So calcium carbonate is also a constituent of chewing gum. It's also used as a filler in cosmetics. Commercial limestone contains iron oxide, alumina, magnesia, silica, and sulfur with calcium oxide content of 22 to 56%, magnesium oxide content up to 21%. They use as such as a fertilizer. Now let us look into the plaster of Paris, which is also called POP in the short form, which is nothing but calcium sulfate, monohydrate, hemihydrate, not monohydrate, it's a hemihydrate. Why it's hemihydrate? Because half water molecule per mole of calcium sulfate is present. So two calcium sulfate molecule contains together one water molecule as a water of crystallization. So out of two molecules, one water of calcium sulfate, CaSO4, of the formula CaSO4, one water molecule is shared. So this is called calcium sulfate hemihydrate. Hemi means half hydrate. And this is also called plaster of Paris, and this plaster of Paris is prepared from the gypsum. Gypsum is what that we have seen, magnesium sulfate 7H2O is called gypsum, and this calcium sulfate 2H2O. This 2H2O, two water molecules as a water of crystallization is called gypsum. So the gypsum, when gypsum is heated, it forms the three water molecules, two molecules of CaSO4 2H2O, 2 units of this. When it is heated, three water molecules will be removed, which was the part of the water of crystallization, and one water molecule, now you can see here, is shared between two CaSO4 units, and two CaSO4 units shares only one water molecule. So one CaSO4 unit will share only half water molecule. So per molecule of CaSO4 there will be only half water molecule, and this is called plaster of Paris. If the temperature is raised above 393 Kelvin, on the 393 Kelvin, when it is raised temperature, then only we see the formation of plaster of Paris from the gypsum. Plaster of Paris is further dehydrated to form. So if the temperature, this temperature is 393 Kelvin, so at 393 Kelvin, when it is heated, it forms plaster of Paris. Gypsum is heated, it forms plaster of Paris. When we raise the temperature beyond 393 Kelvin, what we see that even this water molecule, half water molecule, which was present as the water of crystallization in the plaster of Paris, it also gets removed, it also evaporated. And once this is evaporated, what we see another amorphous solid with the calcium sulfate, which is called dead burnt plaster. And once the even half water molecule is removed from this, now its affinity with the water decreases significantly. And so also that is why it is called dead burnt plaster. Now it cannot set with the reaction react with water. So in sense why it is called dead burnt plaster, the CaSO4 is called dead burnt plaster. And how this is formed, when this plaster of Paris is heated beyond 393 Kelvin, and we see the formation of CaSO4 and water molecules, so 2 CaSO4, because 2 CaSO4 contains half water molecule, and this is called dead burnt plaster. Since it loses the property of setting with water, that is why it is called dead burnt plaster. So plaster of Paris, otherwise also called POP, has a remarkable property of setting with water, but this POP, which contains hemi water per molecule as a water of crystallization, half water molecule as a crystallization, it has a remarkable property of setting with water. On mixing with an adequate quantity of water, it forms a plastic mass that gets into a hard solid in 5 to 15 minutes. And that is why it is used in many purposes, particularly in medicine. Also, we use the plaster certain parts. So, usage of POP, the largest use of POP or the plaster of Paris is in the building industry as well as the plasters. The plasters that it is used for the immobilizing the affected part or organs where there is a bone fracture or a sprain. So whenever there is bone fracture or a sprain, doctors usually use POP to just plaster it so that that person becomes immobilized. And once it becomes immobilized, there will be no movement. So it can very easily be recovered. Whatever losses or the fracture that happened in the bones, it will be very easily cured, and some materials will come and it will join the broken bones. So it is also employed in dentistry. Dentistry means that the dentistry means the parts of medicine, the branch of the medicine is called dentistry, and the ornamental work and for the making casts of statues and busts. Busts means you might have seen many sculptures which are having only shoulder and head of the person. Those are called busts. Bust usually means the breast or this chest part. So this bust in the form of the statue sculpture is called the sculpture which contains head and shoulders only are called bust. So this calcium carbonate is also used in cast of statues and busts, and with that we need most of the this idols of Ganesha, Ganapati that we use in Maharashtra mostly in some part of Madhya Pradesh. It is made of POP, plaster of Paris. Now the gypsum that we know, gypsum is what? It's the calcium sulfate dihydrate, CaSO4 dihydrate, and on heating at 393 Kelvin, it forms plaster of Paris that we know already, that we have seen. Now let us look into the cement. Cement is an important building material and that everyone knows, which was first introduced in England in 1824 by Joseph S. Dean. And a very so 1824 in England, and this is also called Portland cement. Cement is its name is also Portland cement. Why? Because it resembles with the natural limestone quarried in the Isle of Portland, and quarried means excavated in the Isle of Portland, and that is why we call Portland cement. And a cement is produced. Let me have some water. So cement is a product obtained by combining a material rich in lime. Lime, that is CaO. Rich in lime means the 50% of the cement contains lime. CaO, the quick lime, with other materials such as clay, and this clay contains silica, SiO2, also the oxides of aluminum, which is alumina, and iron and magnesium. And these are light metals, and that is why they are available. They are mixed with the clay. So when the clay is mixed with the CaO, it forms cement mostly. So for a good quality cement, the ratio of silica, the SiO2, to alumina, Al2O3, alumina that should be between 2.5 and 4. So the ratio of silica SiO2 means the sand and the alumina Al2O3, it's a ore of aluminium, should be between 2.5 to 4 the ratio, and the ratio of lime CaO to the total of oxides of silicon, all the oxides of silicon, aluminium, iron and magnesium, if you can consider all the oxides other than oxides of calcium, that the CaO should be twice of the sum of the oxides of all the other elements. So it's 2 into 1 ratio. The calcium oxide, lime and other materials should be added. Means whatever the other materials are, they are exactly twice of that. The calcium oxide should be there. So a mixture of lime, so CaO, and sand in the ratio 1:3 with enough water to make a thick paste, which is called mortar, the masala that I said. So usually a good mixture will be in the 1:3 ratio. So they call mortar. And what we also see, the waste product in the, it's also used as a waste product. A waste product of steel industry has a property similar to the cement, and which can be used to cement to reduce its cost without affecting its quality, because this is being produced as a waste material and its property is similar to the cement. And if its property is similar to the cement, so it can be used in the cement. And also it doesn't affect its quality, and it is available because it's a byproduct, so it is available, so it will reduce the cost of the cement. However, this byproduct of the steel industry is not available in the enough amount so that one can use only this byproduct there. So the average composition of Portland cement is what? Calcium oxide, you can see here, 50 to 60%. Silica, SiO2, it's 20 to 25%. Aluminum, 5 to 10%. Magnesium, 2 to 3%. And Fe2O3 is the ferric oxide or iron 3 oxide. Iron 3 oxide, 1 to 2%. Sulfur trioxide, SO3, is 1 to 2%. And this is the usual average composition. In this range, you can add these materials, and so that you can find a form a cement. When clay and lime are strongly heated together, they fuse. Clay is what? Clay contains what? Silica, alumina, and the iron and magnesium oxide. When it is heated and it fused and react to form cement clinker, and the cement clinker is mixed with 2 to 3% by weight of gypsum to form cement. So only 2 to 3% of the cement by weight, the gypsum is added to the cement. What gypsum does, it actually slow down the rates of the setting in of the cement. And once the rate of the setting in of the cement becomes slower, so it gets enough hard, it gets enough time and becomes enough hard, and so the whatever the material that we make, the plaster and other things, it becomes more durable. So the cement clinker is formed. How it is formed? Cement clinker is formed when clay is mixed with CaO. CaO and clay is mixed to form cement clinker, and cement clinker is mixed with the 2 to 3% by weight of gypsum, CaSO4 2H2O to form cement. Thus, important ingredient of Portland cement are calcium silicate. So usually what we see, the formation of calcium silicate, which is 26%, tricalcium silicate, Ca3SiO4. This is the dicalcium silicate. Calcium silicate is CaSiO3 that we have seen earlier. This dicalcium silicate, Ca2SiO4, tricalcium silicate, CaSiO5. And silica and CaO, when they will react, they will form this. This is 51%. And tricalcium aluminate, tricalcium aluminate, alumina is there, so Ca3Al2O6. So tricalcium aluminate, which is 11%. These are important ingredients of Portland cement, and these are formed when clay is heated with lime, CaO. And what the clay contains? Alumina. Clay contains silica mostly, and so alumina and silica when react with CaO, and they form this. And how they react with CaO? On heating, they react with the CaO. So setting of cement, let us look at the setting of cement. When mixed with water, the setting of cement takes place to give a hard mass. This is due to the hydration of the molecules of the constituents and their rearrangement. So what are the constituents of the cement? These are the major constituents: Ca2SiO4, Ca3SiO4, Ca3Al2O6. So why this becomes hard? Why on setting is so it becomes hard? Because the hydration of the molecules, these molecules get hydrated, and they also, their arrangement, they also get rearranged. Why they get rearranged? Because the water molecules, now water can react with that, and water can also work, act as a water of crystallization. So it will sometimes also be shared between two molecules, so it will form a bond. And because of the formation of the bond, we see the material becomes hard by adding water to that. So the purpose of adding gypsum, the gypsum that we added to cement clinker, why it is added, that I have said, is only to slow down the process of setting of cement so that it gets enough hardened. So usage of cement, we know cement has become a commodity of national necessity for any country next to iron and steel. So next to iron and steel, it is very important commodity for the any country and its development infrastructure. Cement is very important, so it is used in concrete and reinforced concrete, in plastering and in the construction of bridges, dams and buildings that you know. So let us now look at the biological importance of magnesium and calcium. And what we know, the magnesium and calcium are present in human body or the living body, living cells, and their importance is they're very important for our survival, because what we know, the calcium ions are important in the muscle action. Calcium ions are also important. They are used in the signaling of any impulse from one nerve cell to the another nerve cell, because it is there, is used perhaps in the synapses. So the calcium ion that we know, the magnesium ion it might have, we know, in the chlorophyll. So chlorophyll contains magnesium ion. There are the porphyrin rings, a complex coordination compound of magnesium with the porphyrin. It is there in the chlorophyll. So chlorophyll, and we know what is the use of the chlorophyll. If chlorophyll is not there, the plants will not be autotrophs. They cannot make their own food for their survival, and we are mostly in a way dependent on the plants for our food, because there are many other elements. We also eat animals, but we eat those animals which are dependent on the plants. So we are mostly in a way dependent on the plant, and so we see the magnesium, how important it is, because it is an important constituent of chlorophyll. So an adult body contains about 25 gram of magnesium. I see adult body contains on average 25 gram of magnesium, and 25 gram of magnesium is very less amount, because if you consider an adult human male 70 kg, so it's 25 gram only, and 1200 gram of calcium, and 1200 gram of, it is around 1.2 kilogram of calcium is there in our body on average, compared with only 5 gram of iron, and iron that we know it's there in the hemoglobin. So even though the iron constituents of iron is very less in comparison to the magnesium and the calcium, so we need magnesium and calcium more in more amount than that we need iron. And 0.06 gram of copper. Copper also is part of some metalloenzymes, and it is also required for our survival. So the daily requirement in human body is estimated to be 200 to 300 milligrams. So 200 to 300 milligram of magnesium is required of these materials for everybody through the intake of the food. So all the enzymes that utilize ATP in the phosphate transfer require magnesium as the cofactor. So all the enzymes which utilize ATP in the phosphate transfer. So phosphorylation, wherever the phosphorylation happens, so kinases, mostly the kinase enzymes, they use phosphorylation. They do phosphorylation. They use ATP usually to phosphorylate, and why that ATP, this phosphate comes from the ATP because it contains 3 phosphate units. It's an adenosine triphosphate. So one phosphate is being used to phosphorylate certain protein or some other substrate, and that phosphorylation is done by the kinase enzymes. So all the kinase enzymes utilize, but contains magnesium as a cofactor. What we know, the cofactor is a protein part, which is a mostly organic molecule, macromolecule, and there are some other group which is attached to that protein. And that protein, when that part is not added to protein, the protein cannot become enzyme. So it doesn't work as an enzyme. It doesn't work as a catalyst. It's a simple protein or the polypeptide. Once this cofactor goes and attached to there, it becomes enzyme. So this is sometimes this certain materials, when it goes attached, and it can also be detached, called coenzymes. So then we call prosthetic group. When it goes and binds permanently to that, it is called prosthetic group. So the cofactor, perhaps you will see these things in more details in your biology classes. So this prosthetic group will be added. The main pigment of for the absorption of light in plant, which is chlorophyll. The chlorophyll, there are many chlorophyll, chlorophyll A, B, something. Chlorophyll A, as or I remember, it contains magnesium. So the chlorophyll A contains magnesium. I don't know what about other chlorophyll. So, and we know the chlorophyll is very important. About 99% of body calcium is present in bones and teeth. So the calcium, why calcium is there in this much gram? Because it is there in our bones and the teeth. And bones, we know it's a very large part of our body and large mass contains the bone. So about 99% of body calcium, all the calcium that is there in our body is present in bones, and very small amount is there through the plasma. It goes to many places, the extracellular species and so on. So calcium also play important role in neuromuscular function. So muscular function, neuronal functions. So neuromuscular function, interneuronal transmission. So between two neurons, transmissions of the signals. So between two neurons, so interneuronal transmissions and neuromuscular function. With the neural something signal comes and even voluntary actions, we do certain muscular functions. So it is there calcium ions are used. Cell membrane integrity, and the cell membrane when they act as and the blood coagulation. Calcium ions are also important in blood coagulation, blood clotting, and the calcium concentration in plasma is regulated at about 100 milligram per liter. The blood plasma contains around 100 milligram per liter of the calcium. So it is maintained by two hormones. So the calcium concentration, this much calcium concentration is maintained mostly by two hormones, and these hormones are called calcitonin and parathyroid. Calcitonin hormone and parathyroid hormone, which regulates calcium concentration in the plasma around 100 milligram per liter. If you take enough more than this concentration of the calcium to a certain food source, that it will be excreted through the urine. So note that the bone is, and if the less amount, if your food intake contains very small amount of calcium, so what will it do? It will actually not allow calcium ion to go out. So the very small amount of calcium ion will go out through the urine. So note what is important here is note that the bone is not an inert and unchanging substances. What we have might have heard that the bone it also decreases, the bone concentration also goes down, it goes up, it depends on the kind of food that you take. So the bone is not an inert and unchanging substance, though it looks like a solid or something when the dead you see the bones of the dead person, so it appears that it is unchanging. But in a living form, it is a change. It is not unchanging. It's a reversible reaction happens. Bone also gets dissolved, and bone also gets formed by certain processes. And if that process was not there, what would happen? And there might be certain equilibrium. Otherwise, then the bone fracture that happens, it will not be repaired. The bones are not inert and unchanging substances, but it's continuously being solubilized or the dissolved and redeposited by the extent of 400 milligram per day in a man. So 400 milligram of bone is dissolved and then it is redeposited, remade around 400 milligram. 400 milligram and all this calcium passes so and this will be deposited and is forming, and even if we dissolve, it will come to the plasma and it is deposited, it will go again back to the bone. So all this calcium that is involved, 400 milligram of formation of bone, so this passes through the blood plasma. And I think this will, so I'll stop here.